You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, we're going to get into our first host call of the weekend. So we have so many great questions that have come in over the past couple of weeks. I believe we're looking at the third and fourth weeks of March questions that have come in. So I know that we're a couple weeks into April, but that's why we're usually just a few weeks behind getting to everyone's questions. And that's because we're kind of backlogged about 10 to 15 questions or so every single week, which is no problem at all. We're going to get to everyone's questions. And the first question today is from Lisa. I actually want to just apologize to Lisa because I know that you sent in this question months ago and you haven't gotten a response. And that's because we emailed you and we said, we're going to turn this into a whole podcast, but that podcast has not come yet. So what I want to do is I just want to answer your question and then we will in the future do a whole podcast as well on this topic. So without further ado, let's get right into today's questions. All right. So Lisa's asking, first, I want to thank you for all the amazing knowledge you share for free. You are one of a kind type of doctor. I follow you on Instagram and now have many friends following you as well. I'm finally all caught up with your podcasts. Love them all. You mentioned that you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, and I do as well. He had Mr. and I just put X, Mr. X, because I don't want to talk negatively about this person. So Mr. X on his show talking about the keto diet. He clearly is in amazing shape and definitely does not look as old as he is. And I'm not going to say his age because that might give him away as well. My question is a keto diet safe and healthy? I've worked with a doctor like you to help heal my daughter's Tourette's and OCD, and I'm obsessed with nutrition. I'm a raw vegan and I feel my body healing. My husband wants to eat lots of meat like Mr. X, and I'm concerned because of all the research about meat and cancer. I would love to hear your thoughts. All right, Lisa. So let's answer this question. And again, apologize about the delay. All right. You are absolutely right in your questioning of a keto diet. I do not believe in a keto diet for long-term safe use. It is a survival-based diet for the body. It's a stress-based diet for the body. And you can show me the markers. Again, I do the research, so I know. And you can show me the inflammation, you can show all these markers. I'm going to do a show, again, just on this, so trust me, I will. But when you look at animals in nature, when you look at even fruit in nature and all these other things in nature, when they are put under high levels of stress, you can look this up. When they're put under high levels of stress, guess what happens? The body responds appropriately and it does whatever it needs to keep the body alive. But that's still a survival-based state that you put it in, causing it to create certain conditions that allow it then to be able to deal with that environment. But how long does the body hold up at that pace? So just keep in mind, the person that you're talking about, Mr. X, and again, I'm not talking negatively because I think he's a brilliant guy. I think he's really, really smart. I've spoken with him personally in the past before. Just keep in mind, please do not, husbands, men, this goes for women as well, but let me just say for men for a second, don't look at the cover of a magazine or don't look at this particular person and say, wow, if I eat like that, I will look like this person. Okay, the person that you're talking about, Lisa, works out most days per week, has a fairly low stress lifestyle, gets to be out in the sun, but also, and again, I'm not saying anything negative about this because it's not my place to, but there is pretty much confirmation that he uses testosterone replacement therapy. So, is it the keto diet that's doing this? Is it the testosterone replacement diet that's replacement hormone that's doing this? Like, there's a lot of things that go into it. And the only reason I mention that is because I don't want women to look at the magazine cover, or men to look at a magazine cover or someone else and say, oh, wow, well, if I do what this person does nutrition-wise, I'm going to look like them. Because that's not the case. We need to have all of the answers. And by eating that type of a diet, if your husband, for example, is more of the ectomorph or Vata body type, it's not going to be that beneficial if you can't break down all that protein well enough. He might need more carbs. Now, should or can he have some meat, some fish? Yes. If he doesn't want to be a vegan, that's totally fine as well. Again, like it works for whatever person, but eating lots of meat is not healthy for anyone. And so I have a question tomorrow, follow up on the China study from Stephanie, which is coming tomorrow. And I never want to say, like, again, what I do is bio-individuality. I do what works for each person. If someone comes to me and they're vegan, they want to stay vegan, then I'm going to help them become the healthiest vegan they can be. If someone's vegetarian, I will help them. If someone still wants to continue to eat meat, I will help them, but I will limit that meat to absolutely no more than once per day. Having meat 3 times per day really is asking for health issues in the future. And there are more studies than not that show that. Again, you can cherry pick any study you want, and that's because everyone's different. So let's say you want to eat lots of meat. That's fine. Eat lots of meat, but still do your lab tests, okay? Do your blood work twice a year. Look at underlying levels as well. Do an omega-3 inflammation test. We have that on our website. People love the test. It shows them their levels of arachidonic acid, which a lot of that comes from red meat. So here's the other thing. If you're not eating a grass-fed like meat, if you're not eating pasture-raised-based chicken, if you're not eating wild-caught-based fish, all of that's going to lead to increased inflammation. And inflammation absolutely will cause disease. So, Lisa, hopefully that was a thorough enough answer. Pass it on to your husband. Make smart, healthy choices. Again, just eat sanely. Just eat healthy. No need to eat meat 3 times a day. That's not smart. It's also not keto either, because keto is a high-fat diet, not a high-protein, nor is it a high-carb diet. Okay, moving on. Ellen, she wrote in, this is actually from our support group, but I thought everyone could use this answer. So it's about kidney stones. And she wrote in, Dr. Cabral, is it okay to take ascorbic acid I received if I have crystal oxalate kidney stones? I have read differing opinions on it and just want to be sure before I take it. Thank you. Okay, so I just let her know that we do not use ascorbic acid for kidney stones. We'll use ascorbic acid, which actually is coming up in the show as well, for urinary tract infections. I think I talk about that tomorrow. And we use it for viruses and many other things. So ascorbic acid has its place, but it does not have its place in dissolving kidney stones. And there's some research which says ascorbic acid may actually be counterproductive to kidney stones as well. So we don't want to use ascorbic acid, right? Whether it actually does exacerbate it or not doesn't really matter, because we're not using it. Like, that's the bottom line. We're not using that if you have kidney stones or are prone to kidney stones. So here's a really, it's not ancient, it's hundreds of years old, that's been used really, again, all across the world with amazing results. So if you have kidney stones, you suffer from kidney stones, what I would recommend is this. To try to dissolve and pass the stones naturally, try this concoction twice a day. All it is 2 to 3 ounces of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Typically, you cut open a lemon and you're going to take half, if it's a big lemon, squeeze it right into a jar or glass. We had that little lemon squeezer in a previous Friday review. I love that. I use it all the time. I use it a lot with lime. For this one, though, use lemon. And you might need the whole lemon. You might just need half. It just depends. You need to get 2 to 3 ounces. That's all. Just about a shot of lemon. And then you're going to mix that with the same 2 to 3 ounces of olive oil. And I always recommend extra virgin olive oil, ideally organic, ideally first pressed, but just get some good olive oil, okay? You want to dissolve these stones. Now, you're going to mix that together, just shake it up a little bit, and you're going to drink that down. You're going to do it twice a day. You're going to follow up that drink with some water, of course, lots of water to flush those stones. And usually this works in anywhere from about 1 to 3 days. Okay? People painlessly pass a stone. A lot of people just feel the stone dissolve. Many others don't actually ever see it because it just breaks up. But for most part, most people do lose that pain, drop that pain in just about 24 hours to 48 hours. So if you use this formula, again, it's not mine. I'm passing on research to you, and research that's been around for hundreds of years and has really stood the test of time. Let us know how it worked. Okay, third question. Hey, Dr. Cabral, I love your podcast and all the great content you give your listeners. I was wondering what you thought about soil-based organisms. I have been taking care of my gut, repopulating it with lacto and bifido probiotics for several months with great progress after a long period of antibiotic use, which led to parasites and candida overgrowth. I just tried taking the SBO supplement, Prescript Assist, and became instantly constipated and started developing bloating, belching, and heartburn, as well as gut lining irritation. I stopped because I was worried it was not for me. Is that the case, or is it just normal reaction to introducing the microbiome to completely new kinds of bacterial species? Thanks. Okay, so it would be good if I gave you the name of this actual person. So let's get that name for you. Okay, so this was Chris asking this question. And Chris, we use, again, I have about a dozen different probiotic formulas that I like, and I have it inside my wellness practice. Now, online, you'll say, well, why don't you have all 12 online? Because the soil-based organisms, or the SBOs by Prescript Assist, are for specific individuals. They're not for everyone. They don't agree with everyone. Now, they're a great product, then no doubt about it. But remember, So the whole thing is, and I seem to be causing some controversy on Instagram, on Facebook, and of course with my podcast, because I don't have one philosophy. And so everyone who disagrees with a particular thing that I say, because they're so locked up in their dogma. Now, remember, if you haven't listened to that previous podcast on how to change your life story, or, I was going to title it Dogmas Are Dangerous, and I probably maybe should have done that thinking about it now, but I'll do another one, because here's the issue, is there is not one thing for every person. Some people do great low carb. Some people do fine with keto. Some people do great on a vegan diet. Some people don't. Like it depends on the person. And so the 2 probiotics that I have on my website are the best for 90+% of the population. The Clean Gut Probiotic, great for people with very mild forms of candida, and they can use that to just kind of wipe it out. That's if you have a very, very mild form, or you just took antibiotics, that's the one to use. And for everyday use, we have something called the Daily Probiotic Support. And that's because it does exactly what it says. It's daily use. There's no dairy. It's more small intestinal-based strains, which is what you want and what you need because you're putting it in through your mouth. You're not putting it in rectally. And it's low histamine or no histamine strains. So that's the great thing about it. I know that most people aren't going to react to that. Now, do I use other ones in my practice? Do I use some with, FOS and some prebiotics? Yes, depends on the person. I have some for children. I have some for infants. And I have some of these soil-based organisms as well. So I would have done it just like you, Chris. I would have used the other probiotics first, and then I would have experimented with this product, Prescript Assist. And for some people, it works great. It really does. And it helps with that last little bit of kind of digestive upset because you're putting in. So for anybody who doesn't know, Prescript Assist, the SBO, which is just the soil-based organisms, is by the parent company Magnetic Clay. Great product, 29 different strains of bacteria. There's about 65 million colony-forming units or CFUs, I believe. Now, keep in mind, like a probiotic like ours is 50 billion, right? This is 65 million. It's a much smaller dosage, but it's not supposed to be the same because this is actually dirt, like it's soil-based bacteria. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not trying to make it sound like a bad thing because previously, before we got so health conscious, you would actually just go out to your garden or in nature and you would pick celery and the celery would have dirt on it. And then you would eat the dirt with the celery. You would wipe off obviously some of it, but there's going to be some bacteria on there. Now, that's what this bacteria is trying to mimic. And so your gut may not be ready for that or even want it. And the other thing is, there's a possibility that the fulvic acid or the humic acids in it that act like prebiotics could be feeding additional bacteria that you have there right now because it can act like a prebiotic. And the other thing is you could actually have current bacterial overgrowth in your gut. So when you put in more of this bacteria or a different type, they're competing and that's causing some of the bloating, some of the gas. So it could be multiple different things. But here's the thing, Chris, you don't need to use this product. I mean, that's kind of like making a really long answer kind of short, is that you don't need to use this. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. What I would say is keep it on hand, try it in another, let's say 4 to 6 weeks and do half the dosage. Do the smallest possible dosage possible. And if it works for you and you can start to introduce it, then great. But if not, then you don't need it. Keep it out of your diet. Okay. Next up is, plus it sounds like you're doing great, Chris, so we don't need to rock that boat. Annie's up next. She said, hi, I'm about to embark on IVF and I'm worried about all the hormones, et cetera, in my body. Do you have anything you can suggest for me to do before or after to aid in getting my body back to normal? Okay. So I'm worried about all the hormones in my body. Do you have anything I can suggest? So, well, I mean, part of it is if you get pregnant, then we need to follow our perinatal, which just while you're pregnant, that nutrition plan, which is essentially eating mostly whole foods, making sure that you're taking prenatal vitamin and the iron that we recommend on the website. Again, they're not our products, but you can go check it out. Just go to stephencabral.com/store. You'll see what we recommend directly in my practice. By the way, me always linking to my store or website just helps me make a 10-minute answer down to 5 minutes. So hopefully I do that and that's no issues. I'm just confused about all the hormones in your body because if you'd like to get pregnant without using IVF, let me give you the other answer, is that you'd want to do an adrenal and hormone test. And the reason is this. Most women that I see in my practice, the reason they can't get pregnant is because they have low progesterone levels. Estrogen, totally normal. Why would progesterone go low? I've said it before, but I'm always happy to say it again, is because progesterone is a direct precursor to cortisol. When the body's stressed, and again, who isn't stressed, but when it gets really stressed, you start to use whatever hormone is left to funnel down to cortisol. And so on our steroid hormone pathway, it goes from essentially cholesterol to pregnenolone over to the left-hand column, or chart we'll call it, which is progesterone to 17-hydroxyprogesterone, and then eventually to cortisol. So if you want your body to keep the progesterone levels higher, you want to make sure that you keep your stress levels a little bit lower. Now, if this is someone just from the beginning, I'd say, okay, we need to do a detox. We need to do a hair tissue mineral analysis, make sure there's not any heavy metals. We'll do the adrenal test, or we'll do the full hormone test. Start to exercise gently on the body, sweat, detox, eat well, begin taking your multi. If you're not already taking a multi, start taking it right now. Do the daily nutritional support shake, or again, just use the prenatal. And I will do a whole episode on essentially fertility, but that's the best way to get started. Now, if you're worried about all the hormones, well, you need those hormones. So you need the increased hormones in order to get pregnant. But not only that, you need to make sure your progesterone stays high enough through those first 6 to 12 weeks in order for that, that pregnancy to really set in. And I don't know the best word to say that, but stay and stick. So we don't want to lower that yet. We want your body to use its natural hormones to keep things balanced. And I know that you're putting more hormones into your body, but that's essentially what IVF is, and it works. And if you choose to go that route, then I think that's great. I just want you to get your body in tip-top shape for your whole pregnancy. Okay, we got our next question. That's from Jane. Do you think switching to a ketogenic way of eating could help my boyfriend with his erectile dysfunction caused by type 2 diabetes? He is 51. Thank you, Jane. Okay, so keto is definitely like the buzzword now. And again, if I was like a business type guy, I would be creating a keto cookbook for you. I'd be creating a keto supplement. I'd be creating a keto ebook, keto everything, right? But I'm not. I don't care about any of that whatsoever. My whole mission is about spreading the truth and about spreading the information that you're not necessarily going to hear pretty much anywhere else. And the reason is that I don't have one dogma. So when I started studying nutrition, there was no one type of nutrition that I studied. When people get upset at me about, talking negatively about keto, I say, well, I'm not talking negatively about it in a short-term sense. I am for the long term. And I'm also talking that it's not very good for everyone. And that's because it can lower thyroid. Now, if you listen to my last Weight Loss Wednesday show in this, it talks about it. You want to go that low carb? Well, then you are most likely going to lower your metabolism in the long run for some people. Again, how do you know? Well, if you're susceptible to lower thyroid, if you're susceptible to going very high stress, any of those things, that may happen to you. All right. So my answer, you probably figured it out. No, I don't think your boyfriend should use a keto diet to regulate type 2 diabetes. However, I would reduce his carbohydrates. I would follow a low carb diet. Now, again, there's a difference. Low carb is not keto. It's not the same thing. Keto is very high fat. It's high fat because you need to make sure that we're keeping glucose in order. In order to do that we need to make sure that our protein's low enough and our carbs are low enough so that we're not getting that glucose spike. And that's the way to do it, is then the diet automatically just becomes higher in fat. That's how it works. So here's what we need to do. We'll go low carb because in the beginning, low carb for type 2 diabetes, it works great. And I use it all the time in my practice. And that's why there's something for everyone. So after that, after we get the blood sugar under control, get him back down below the 126 fasting glucose, really he should be below 95. And you'll be able to do that, I would say, within 6 to 12 weeks maximum. Dr. Cabral Detox helps great with that as well. Unfortunate thing is you'll see in the website, we had to switch it a little this month because we sold out, which is great. But anyway, story for another day. That will help. But then you're going to slowly want to increase more vegetables and absolutely raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, all the berries. And the reason you want to do this is you need to help him weigh up his veggies and berries. Why? Because it's anti-inflammatory. Remember, erectile dysfunction has a lot to do with inflammation and improper blood flow. So if all your arteries are constricted, guess what's going to happen if you increase inflammatory foods, some of them, those being ketogenic? Like if you're eating bacon, are you really telling me that bacon is a health food? Honestly, I used to love bacon. I used to have it considered its own food group. But that just because I like it doesn't mean I can say that it's healthy, okay? So we have to stop pretending, right? We have to stop trying to make things fit into what we want to believe. Bacon is not healthy. It's been proven over and over. Mayo Clinic rates it as one of its top 10 carcinogens for causing cancer. So why don't we do what we know prevents cancer, helps to stave it off, helps anti-inflammatory, helps improve all systems body, and eat more vegetables and eat more fruit, especially the low glycemic berries. Jane, that will absolutely help. We do this all the time. And honestly, it works great. Okay, last question of the day is from Marielle. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Marielle. And she writes in, or he, because again, I'm not good at this, with names. So thanks for sharing so much great information with all of us. The problem comes and goes, but I have realized my frequency and urgency to urinate is out of this world. Sometimes I've gone to doctors and even been on an overactive bladder medications. If I drink enough water, it happens. When I don't drink enough, it still happens, especially when I'm trying to fall asleep. I have a hard time just feeling like I have to go maybe 3 or 4 times before I can actually fall asleep. What do you think could be the cause of this? Okay. So many different causes this could be, but you did help me narrow it down. Okay. If this happens, even if you're not drinking any water, it's very possible that, like, yes, there could be the overactive bladder thing, but it doesn't sound like you because you've already tried to use the medication on this. Now, some people who eat certain fruits that are high in fructose have fructose malabsorption. You will literally urinate every 20 minutes until you get all of that fructose out of your body. Okay. How do I know that? Because I was that person. So that's a really interesting thing. That's a hard thing because what you're doing is you're actually urinating out more fluid than you took in. It's amazing, but it can happen. Second reason can be electrolyte balance. Okay. Third reason can be an increase in the hormone aldosterone, which only happens when you're under stress. So if you're stressed at night, it could certainly happen. If you're thinking about the next day, what happens is the body starts to dump sodium as well. So there's a sodium, potassium balance that's created in your kidneys. And that could sometimes, again, cause you to urinate even when you haven't consumed water. Think of it this way. If you go to give a talk on stage or public speaking or you're nervous about something, you have to urinate a lot of times, right? It's the same exact thing. That's the stress reaction. However, and this is what I was leaning towards when I was reading your question, you might not have an overactive bladder. You may actually have an underlying low-level urinary tract infection, which means there's a bacteria in there. And what's happening is it's causing the same symptoms as a UTI, urinary tract infection. My highest recommendation is to use the same protocol we have online. Just go to stevencabral.com/store, click on supplements. Feel free to pick it up anywhere you want in the world. I'm giving it to you as information. If you purchase it from our store, obviously you help support the Cabral concept, but also what you're going to do is you're going to get my protocol. I'm going to tell you how to take these 3 specific products. Now, just like you heard me talk about who ascorbic acid isn't right for, ascorbic acid, when used with this grapefruit seed extract, when used with this D-mannose, works exceptionally well. I've been using this now for over 5 years. It typically works sometimes within hours, but usually within 24 hours, maximum of 3 days. You'll know in 3 days if this is it. If you follow this protocol for just up to 3 days, you will know. And if it works, well, that's what it was. And if it doesn't work, that's not what it was. And then you can go back to the other 3 that I talked about, which were much more in depth. So the nice thing is that you do this as a trial, as a test. If it works, well, then it was an infection. It was this underlying infection. And so you're going to do this, and then you're going to use some probiotics afterwards to help rebalance the whole gut and bladder and all of those things. I'm not going to get into how the bacteria in your gut actually affects the bladder and vaginal canal and all that, but we will in the future. So hopefully this answered everyone's questions today. Really great questions. Never answered many of these questions in this way before. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and be back tomorrow for another 5 or 6 questions as well. Take care, and I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.